Let's look at where representation quietly shapes your outcome. Most of the impact an agent has on a transaction isn't visible during the showing. It doesn't happen when you're walking through the kitchen. It doesn't happen when you're standing on the balcony. And it doesn't happen when you're imagining furniture placement. It happens in the sequencing. It happens in contract language, in the negotiation framing, in the timing of decisions. Where buyers are often surprised is that two identical offers on the same property can produce very different outcomes, simply because how they're structured. I'm Lori Lee Mendieta with Century 21, the Harrelson Group. As a trusted local expert here in the Grand Strand, my role is to help you evaluate not just the property, but how every decision with the contract affects your leverage and your flexibility. Let's look at where representation quietly shapes your outcome. When we write an offer, we're not just filling in the blanks. We're making strategic decisions about due diligence timelines, financing contingencies, repair language, deposit structure. Where friction usually shows up is when buyers assume stronger means more aggressive. Stronger often means clearer. For example, when a well-sequenced due diligence period can preserve your leverage during an inspection, a poorly structured timeline can force rushed decisions and reduce negotiation strength. Even something as simple as how a repair request is framed can influence the seller's response. We aren't just presenting a list. Or are we categorizing findings by safety, structure, and material impact? That framing changes tone, and tone affects the outcome. Most buyers think negotiation is about pressure. Okay, in practice, it's about clarity. An inspection report can easily run 30, 40, 60 pages. The difference isn't whether issues exist, it's how they're interpreted. In the Grand Strand, for example, moisture patterns, HVAC corrosion, or a roof agent behave differently due to the salt exposure. Where buyers are often surprised is that not every finding requires credit or a repair request. Overreacting and overreaching can reduce credibility. Your overreaction can increase exposure. Representation shapes how findings are categorized, which issues truly affect structural integrity, which impact safety, which represent the routine maintenance, over time. When those distinctions are made clearly, negotiations become measured, not emotional, and measured negotiation preserves relationships while protecting your capital. When an appraisal comes back in at or even above value, most buyers never think about it again. But when it doesn't, this is where representation really matters. A low appraisal isn't a crisis, it's a data point. Where friction usually shows up is when buyers react before analyzing. Is the property unique? Are comparable sales lagging in the market movement? Is renegotiation appropriate? Should the appraisal be challenged? Is adjusting the capital structure the cleanest solution? Two buyers in the same situation can respond very differently based on the guidance they receive. One becomes emotional, the other becomes strategic. Representation influences that shift. One of the least visible, but the most critical aspects of representation is timeline management. Contracts in South Carolina move through a structured phases. There's due diligence, there's financing, title review, HOA document review during due diligence, insurance binding. Where issues surface, most often is not in complexity, it's in timing. Missing a deadline can even eliminate your leverage. Failing to request documents early can compress decision windows, and even waiting too long to secure insurance can create closing risk. Strong representation doesn't create urgency. It creates order, and order reduces stress. Some of the most important representation decisions aren't obvious at the time. How aggressively do they negotiate credit? How much documentation do we request? How do we communicate concerns without escalating tension? When do we be advised to walk away? Now, in practice, these decisions tend to matter most 6 months or 2 years after closing, because what you negotiate or didn't negotiate affects maintenance history, resale strength, and financial flexibility. So representation doesn't just influence whether you close, it influences how ownership feels afterward. The difference strong representation makes is rarely dramatic in the moment. It's quiet, it's structural. It's the difference between reacting and evaluating, between rushing and sequencing, and between emotion and clarity. So if you're considering a purchase in the Grand Strand and want to understand how contract structure and even negotiation framing apply to the properties that you're potentially evaluating, I'm always happy to walk through those with you. There's never any pressure, definitely not any urgency, just a disciplined conversation on how to protect your position throughout the whole entire process. I'm Lori Lee Mendieta with Century 21, the Harrelson Group here in Myrtle Beach. Let's just make sure that your next transaction isn't just successful, but strategically managed from start to finish.